Okay, there we go. So it always takes like a second to start recording, and I think I
Okay.
ran into an issue with my last interview actually, where I started talking like half a second before it started recording, but I think we're definitely good by now. So hey, everyone, this is Generation Vatican 2. I'm Alex Clark, and with me today, special guest is Brendan Flynn. Brendan Flynn, you may have noticed that name sounds familiar because Brendan actually is the artist, composer, and performer, mixer, scorer, all that those fancy words for the soundtrack to the podcast. He wrote the intro and then which is called Et Spes, and then did variations on Et Spes, and that's the outro. So, Brendan Flynn, hey, how you doing?
Hey, Alex. I'm good. It feels so official.
Yeah. So like all my previous interviews have been with, like highfalutin people that are really important and we're just buddies that have known each other for a while now. So this we'll try and keep this at least sounding, really really professional and important, but really it's just two guys hanging out. So, cool. Hey, Brendan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself for the fans?
Yes. So I am the oldest of five. I have two younger brothers and two younger sisters, and I have two parents that I love tremendously. And I'm in the Coast Guard, and I grew up in a Coast Guard family. My dad just retired. So hometown is always a really tough question to answer. We moved around a lot. We bounced around from Texas, Rhode Island, uh, Juneau, Kodiak, Oregon, DC, Cape May, New Jersey, Connecticut, and then I went to the Coast Guard Academy, majored in marine environmental science, and now I'm working in the Coast Guard and um, pursuing my passion of music more or less on the side. Um, but I don't really. It's not really like the two things are like one's on the side and one's not. It's just music is like always there. So yeah. And then while I was at school, I guess I'll just kind of give a brief history of me and music.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. When I was when I was 3 or 4, I started taking lessons in Kodiak, and then I quit because I wanted to learn the accordion. Um, and there were no
Nice.
accordion teachers in Kodiak, so so I begged to pick up piano again, and then my mom made me wait to like make sure I was serious about it. And then we moved to Oregon, and then I started taking lessons with this lady from church that we were good friends with, and so she taught me, and then I just kept taking lessons after that. And when I was young, I think I started writing music um, when I was like 8, and I thought I was pretty important because I was doing,
Really?
yeah.
8 years old, you were writing music.
I was writing like jazzy stuff. I
Hmm.
think my first piece um, that I considered good, well, actually, my first piece that I was like really, really, really proud of was called "The Wild Black Cat," um,
Okay.
and the first piece I ever finished, I actually don't remember how to play anymore, and that was like mid childhood crisis. The day I realized I didn't remember it, I think I cried in the bathtub for like hours. But so I
Child
started with,
crisis.
yeah, I started with like jazz stuff, and then when I was like 12, we had moved to New Jersey, and then maybe we're like 14 after we moved to Connecticut. My style like shifted dramatically. I think it was kind of because I started listening to composers like Ludovico Einaudi, who's an Italian pianist that I enjoy a lot. It's probably the only modern pianist that I like. Um, and are you getting that noise?
Yeah, I think it's me. There we go.
All right, cool. And then um, yeah, and then my style became more like I call it like contemporary classical. So and that's kind of where I've been since then. Um, and I have this. What if I can flip my camera view? Can I do that? I'll just show you. I have this baby grand piano that I got for free.
Okay, very
So
cool.
Squeeze that into every place I live. Yeah, that's kind of where I write music.
Dude, rock on. So when you were 8 years old, you said you wrote your first piece of music. Was that like you had composed it and had it in your mind, or did you like take pen to paper and wrote out the notes on a score sheet?
People actually ask that a lot. So like about whether or not like I write it down. When it's like something you create, like for me, like I build it like piece by piece, and it starts from like one idea that meshes with other ideas. So like I know a piece that I've written like intimately. So I don't write it down.
Okay.
Unless I want someone else to play it. Like I took this composition class at Conn College, which is a liberal arts school across the street from my school, and that was super, super blessed to be able to do that. And for that class, I wrote a piano trio, so it was piano, violin, and cello, and so I had to write it down so that someone else could play my music. And then I'll like if I come up with an idea that I really want to remember, and I'm not sure if I'm going to remember it, I'll put my phone under my chin and record my hands playing it, or I have Logic, which is like the next up version of GarageBand, and a little keyboard, so I can play it like that too to remember songs.
Gotcha. Actually, so you have told me before that so you have a Spotify account with your own production on it.
Right.
You have received requests from people asking for that sheet music, right? Because they
Yeah.
wanted it played at like weddings, right?
Yeah.
Which is like so cool that you're at this position where people are asking you, like, hey, the most important day of my life, I would really like to hear your music. Can you please provide
Dang.
the
I
sheet
never really
music
thought
for
about it
it?
that way. Yeah. That's been really cool. I remember the first time it happened because I have like a Facebook page for my music with like 50 followers, because I'm too proud to like do that thing where you ask everyone to follow you. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I somebody asked me for the music to Yellow Rose, which is my most popular one. I was just floored. So then after that, I would get like a couple requests a week. I've been in kind of a dry spell, but
Okay.
I think that song has been in 4 weddings, including my grandmother's when she got remarried, which was the first one.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was like those were requests that like really floored me out. That was
And your
super cool.
grandmother's too. That's gotta be fantastic.
It was cool. Yeah, she played the recording. I wasn't able to be there for it.
Okay.
Um,
Wow. That sounds so cool, dude. That's so great. That's gotta be amazing. Okay, so you came back to the piano because the accordion was a rather niche thing to get into that Alaska can't support. Um, and it sounds like you've been with that for your entire life, at least since you were like, 6 years old. Do you play any other instruments?
I do not. I have a guitar that my friend gave me that I've been trying to learn. So the cool thing about like learning a new instrument is I've been working on guitar for a little bit, and I'm not good at it. But the cool thing is that like I feel like when I write music, either it's always something that happens on accident, or I like do something wrong when I'm playing my own song or like another song, or like maybe the coolest way is like I hear a little kid playing something, um, and then I'm like, oh, that's good, and then I can make that into a song and kind of plagiarize um, whatever the kid made. But so when you're playing guitar, it's like when you're playing a new instrument, um, it's like you're a kid again, like because you start from ground zero, so you can't like fall back into your routine things. Like if I'm playing piano, like I have like, there's like patterns that I've developed or learned that are hard to break. So like if I'm like starting from scratch, like you have no like patterns to fall into. So it's kind of a cool way to expand your musical idea space, you know.
Gotcha. So you've mentioned one of your favorite composers that had a drastic effect on your musical performance. Who are some other musicians or composers that you absolutely love listening to?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I love like all the stuff my dad listened to when I was a kid, like U2 and Pearl Jam and Led Zeppelin, like all that stuff. And then
Which is like standard father stuff. I grew up with the
yeah.
Beatles and the Doors. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then I fell in love with U2 all over again a couple years ago. And then I mean, I really love finding new music now. So I'm a big fan of a couple. Honestly, I didn't really start listening or really loving, like, I've always like really loved music, but I didn't really love or pay attention to lyrics until a couple of years ago. And that's when I started to love a couple other bands. Like Typhoon is one, like some like indie rock stuff. Noah and the Whale I like a lot.
Okay.
Or like if someone can do like indie folk really well, I enjoy that a lot. Like older The Head and the Heart stuff. The Oh Hellos I like a lot. I like Gang of Youths. That's kind of a cool band. And then I do enjoy classical music. I feel like it's kind of a separate fascination than like other music because I have like this whole theory about listening to classical music and enjoying it. But I like Dvorak, Antonin Dvorak a lot. He wrote the New World Symphony. That one's pretty easy to recognize. I think it's beautiful. Recently, I started getting into Rachmaninoff a lot. I think he's pretty amazing. And I like Tchaikovsky a lot. A lot of like late Romantic era composer stuff. Max Bruch wrote some pretty amazing violin concerto music. And my little brother actually, my little brother plays piano, and I think he's a more skilled pianist than I am. And he really got me into Claude Debussy.
Okay.
Someone that I didn't really listen to before, but I'm like in love with his music now. It kind of got me into like playing other people's music again. I'd kind of fallen into just like playing my own stuff and not really expanding my
your repertoire.
My repertoire, which is like also like expands your own ability to create. But I love Chopin too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you listed a lot of, first off, call it classic rock artists, and then the classical music composers. Do you only play sort of what you had said, contemporary classical music, or do you also bang out some keys for Pink Floyd or something like that?
I've tried to learn some of that stuff before, but then I realized that I'm only doing it as a party trick, so I could like play,
okay,
and then I lose motivation to do that really quickly, and it's not as challenging. Like it's more challenging to learn one of Chopin's nocturnes, and it takes forever for me. So I enjoy that more. I think music like classical rock has influenced my style, and like cinematic music and even like video game music. But I don't think I think it's because I listened to so much of it, not necessarily because I played it.
Okay. Would you mind giving us your theory on listening to classical music?
Yeah. So I think music with lyrics and music without lyrics are two different beasts. So music with lyrics, you can say like you're saying one thing and you're saying it really like specifically. Like you really define like the direction and the mood of the song. If you're in classical music, there's no lyrics unless it's opera, and then So you're, instead of saying like 30 degrees of life, like you're saying 180 degrees of something, and it can mean like any of that. Like something kind of interesting is um like Aaron Copland's like really famous song, um what is it, Appalachian Spring, the one that is like a popular Western song. Like he didn't even name, like somebody else came up with a name. And so like classical music can mean all these, like can mean one thing to someone and can be sad to someone and happy to someone else. So I think to like connect with classical music, you have to bring in like a human element that's missing when you lose lyrics. So I think to fall in love with classical music, you need to fall in love with like specific pieces by watching them being played by someone. Like not like any, like not just like look it up online and click the first YouTube video, but like you need to know who's playing the music, and like see what happens to them when they play it. Like watching Martha Argerich play Tchaikovsky's First Piano Concerto is something amazing. Like when you see her face, and if you like know who's playing it, or like a lot of these composers, like late 19th, early 20th century, like Rachmaninoff and Debussy, you can hear them play their own music. There's recordings of them, and that's kind of incredible. So I think you need to like, it's harder to listen to classical music in the car because like you're missing the human element of like knowing who is playing the music that's there when you have lyrics.
Really, that is quite a unique take on classical music. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say something like that before, because classical music is generally referred to as like, oh, that thing, put it on, and the extra orchestra, different movements or harmonics between the different sections of the symphony are supposed to create this better synaptic response in your brain, and it's supposed to be better for you and all that good stuff. But no one's ever mentioned like seeing the face of the players adds this aspect that is missing otherwise, because like what else is there in the world outside of human interaction? That's probably one of the most important aspects of life,
Yeah, that's cool the way you just put it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. So on that note, then, why don't any of your songs have lyrics?
Because I am a terrible poet. And it's just not, I guess it's just not what I do.
Okay.
To put it really simply.
You do the piano, sometimes you do some other instruments to go with it, but words not your thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm saying, I think there is something cool about the fact that in classical music or instrumental music, you can say 180 degrees of something. So like one moment I really remember in particular is I played one of my songs, Emmanuel, for my friend Laura, and I played it, and to me the song is like incredibly hopeful and even happy. And I turned around and she was like on the verge of tears, and she said, "Brendan, that song was so sad," and it surprised me. I think that's kind of a cool thing about like if someone's willing to pay attention to the music, then you can say something incredibly different to someone else with the same piece of music, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you and that's a great segue, because I had asked you to be on the podcast originally because of the aspect of beauty in life, and specifically your take on beauty through music. I was hoping to ask, when you've talked about your musical pieces now a couple times, they are religiously themed, though you wouldn't necessarily know that just by listening to it. The titles, as you've said, have a religious undertone, a Christian undertone in them. How do you Is there a reason behind that? Excuse me. I won't put words in your mouth.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think there's a reason, and then there's a reason I'm glad I did that. The reason is I I kind of promised God that I would do that. And then the reason I'm glad I did that is because it's really easy, I think, to forget um, that music is not an ends. Like music, um, to forget that it's a gift, you know,
Okay.
um, and to I can say all these things about music, and I can I can wax philosophical about how I like why I love music, but it's really not worth anything if I forget the fact that I didn't give myself this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
and I think the names are also connected to some aspect of hope, um, because I don't think music is music if it isn't hopeful. Like one dimensional music that is purely sad. I don't really. Uh, I think a lot of people probably disagree with me, but I think hope is something inherent in music. That's the whole idea of music starting out on, of at least for tonal music that starts out on a establishes a tonic, and then it's kind of playing with creating tension by almost resolving to where it began, and finally resolving, or maybe not resolving. Um yeah, I think it kind of comes from that connection um to hope being inherent in music.
Hmm. That's yeah, that's probably a pretty hot take that music has to be hopeful, or like that's an inherent section of it. Um, I mean, I feel like a lot of famous operas may deal specifically with, war, violence, pain. Um, but then I guess you could also say that usually by the end, the entire operatic movement has resolved itself.
I mean, even if it doesn't resolve itself, I could be totally wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this and I'll change my mind in a year. But even if the lyrics deal with something sad, um, I think this goes back to why I think like music is beautiful, which is that um, like um, I mean, I could kind of lose myself on this, but even if the music is sad, as long as you enjoy listening to it, you enjoy it because of like of how it's this metaphor for your own life, maybe it's creating this it's creating this tension and resolving, and maybe not resolving. Maybe by the end of the opera it doesn't resolve, but that's not the point. The point is that the music is beautiful, and that's why you liked it, because
Okay.
it was beautiful. So I think the hope comes from the fact that the music itself is something beautiful.
Okay. So, I mean, it's easy to look at some of the big names in music, both today and of yesteryear, and see beauty in their music. What about, I think it's the postmodern uh, change in music that happened not too recently? What is it? The quote unquote song 420, that's just, or 422 maybe, that's just like the performer comes out, sits down at a piano for like 4 minutes and 25 seconds of pure silence, and then gets up and leaves. And then they like changed from fundamentals of music and decided to try and like create mathematical equations out of the music that they were writing, and it was just crazy and didn't make sense to the listener. But this was like, I want to say this was Enlightenment era, where it was like, this is just, you know what, music doesn't have beauty, doesn't exist. It's all subjective. So we're just going to make mathematical equations out of our musical writing and try and do something from there. Do you know what I'm talking about? Even I'm describing this poorly.
No, I mean, you hit on a couple, like, you might have to remind me because I have a couple things, like, you hit on a couple things that I find either scary or like important. And I think the things you said about like beauty in music, it reminds me of some quotes by Claude Debussy, who I disagree with. He says that what is he? So like the first example of the guy sitting down is kind of funny in an ironic way. One thing Debussy said is that music is all about the silence between the notes. No notes were played, so there was no silence between notes. And that's something that I like half agree with and half disagree with. I mean, the silence between the notes is important, but anyway. And then the other thing he said was that he said beauty is a lie, but it's the greatest lie ever. Basically, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
And this is where I feel like Debussy kind of is like the Camus version of musicians. Like he also said that music is should be as close to a dream as possible. Like it shouldn't be too real. And I like to think the opposite. Like I think music at its best is like a metaphor for your own life and is real. But and I also disagree with what he said about beauty. Like, if beauty is a lie, then what I'm doing on the piano doesn't mean anything. And then the thing about the mathematical stuff with music is kind of interesting because I feel like there's a couple of ways you can go with understanding music that aren't satisfying to me. One is that I think it's actually kind of scary to me that I could reduce music to a mathematical formula or a psychological like reaction.
Okay.
And until I realized that, like, even if that's true, like the poetic part of music, and I don't mean lyrics, but I mean like the fact that music, like the hopefulness embedded in music and the way that like tension and resolution like mirror events in your life doesn't go away no matter what the reason is that music is enjoyable. So music does not lose its metaphorical quality depending on like why it sounds good. And then, but I think you can kind of go the other way and say like something that makes me want to puke is when people say that music is a feeling. And like, if music is just a feeling, then everything is lost again. Like, and I don't really, that's not even like a complete idea for me, but I think there has to be something like real about music in the way that it's about your life, you know. And it like music kind of becomes like a it's not interesting anymore. Like it kind of become like its own like type of pornography if like it's used just to distract you. You know what I mean? Like the fact that music is beautiful like has to bring you back to the fact that what you're living matters and not distract you like with its beauty. You know what I mean? That can't be what it's for.
Well, that was very insightful, actually. Music as a distraction is like pornography. That was quite a statement.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is it's not like you're misusing it. Like it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I can get on board with that. Um, how would you say that you encounter beauty in your music?
Um, so I think maybe like the only like complete thought that I have on music is this, and that is that um, because I guess to get to that, I have to say that um, like the beauty encountered in music is definitely like an emotional experience. So what I think is wrong is if we in there and forget that we're using like the feelings that music evokes to like paint a metaphor about real life. If you think it ends at if you think it ends at the way you feel, like the reason if you think it ends like with the fact that you're happy after you play music, um like you haven't like followed that all the way. You know what I mean? So I think I encounter beauty in my music in the fact that um like even even when I like even when like my experience like in life is like really difficult, like if I like feel awful, um if I'm like lonely or like can barely concentrate, I can still play music, like, and the music is still beautiful. And I think in that way, music is kind of like a sacrament. Like in the same way that like when I am like struggling to believe in God, like I can receive the Eucharist and like participate in this gesture that affirms what I believe, even like when interiorly I'm all over the place. Like in the same way, music is like an affirmation that like there's hope and beauty even when like even if I'm playing the music and I like maybe I'm not even like enjoying it that much, but like the music exists and I know it's a gift and I know it's beautiful and like is expressive of my own groaning. But like I think the most important thing is that this is the most important thing, which is that um like music to me is a sign that nothing is lost because like even if like the last year of my life was like really difficult. Like even like this last year here, like I moved away from Pensacola, um, and like I went from like being like 15 minutes away from like the most amazing friends I've ever met to like an hour away from my friends, like still getting to know people and like also a beautiful experience, but like a long year, like because of that, um, and like other like things going on in my life like made it really hard. But like in that year, like I finished a song and the song is beautiful and like the events of the year like it's not like something happened and then I sat down at the piano and I was like okay like I'm gonna play this inspired by this event, like I'm gonna make up this sad thing or this happy thing because this sad thing or happy thing happened, but like the events are encoded in the music because they happen like at the same time, like the events happened and I like played music or created music and like so they're like I can't look back at the year and say it didn't matter because like I have like a song at the end of this year, which wouldn't have happened if that year didn't exist. So I think that's
Hmm.
the important thing about beauty in music.
It's always there when you're able to reach out to it. Okay. Going along with your songs, you also have paintings as the artwork for each song. Did you paint those watercolors?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah. My grandma taught me how to paint, so I have her to thank for that. But
Very cool. I think it's your YouTube video where you uploaded your songs to YouTube. It's actually like a time lapse video of you doing the painting for the song, and I think the painting is stretched out over the entirety of
Yeah.
the song. Talk to me a little bit about doing your paintings and bringing them into the songwriting process.
So the first one I did that for was the first one I published, which is Yellow Rose, and then I think I had this idea that I could like express movements of the song with like the development of the rose. So like if you watch the song, like there's like a rose in full bloom, and then like the last movement is like a bud, like a rose bud. And I think I just was kind of excited to like um to make like an alternative music video like by painting. Um and um yeah, I don't know. I've actually never tried to like answer that question for like why do I paint and attach it to a song. I mean, a lot of music I won't listen to if their album cover sucks. So I think like the name of a song is important, and then like if you're gonna attach art to a song, like that's part of the name. You know what I mean? Um, so part of the name of Yellow Rose is that painting.
Dang, man, that is so great to hear that you're putting that much thought and effort into your work. Although I feel like the album artwork sucking is kind of like judging a book by its color, but I get what you're coming from. Like the whole thing is a work that you're doing. The whole thing is an experience to the, I don't know, consumer, the observer, and you're taking a listener and turning them into a fully engaged audience for every aspect of your work.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a cool way to put it. And I think the difference between judging a book by a cover and judging a song by its album cover is that a lot of writers, I feel like, didn't pick they're not the publisher, but like if you publish an album, like you pick that album art. So
Mm-hmm.
if it matters to you, like I don't know.
I mean, shoot, I think a lot of authors aren't even allowed to choose the title of their work, their book as well. I mean, a lot of freedoms are taken away from that. Yeah.
That's terrible.
All right, cool. So they are connected. They're connected to the title. You've already talked about that. Awesome. So what do you try to accomplish when you write a song? Is each song you've composed and performed a different, did you have a different aim for each one? Is there just sort of like when I make music, I want to do this, and I've done that with each of my 4 songs?
I think I do not have a specific goal in mind. Like the music is something that happens to me.
Okay.
Like um yeah, like I'm like sitting down at the piano and I come up with something cool, like something that I think sounds good. And like if I fall in love with the idea, like I continue to expand it um, and then just like fit ideas together in a way that makes sense to me. I don't think I'm ever like trying to accomplish a specific goal until I get to the end of the song and I realize like that's when I realize what the song means, and that's like when I can name it, you know.
Okay.
And or sometimes the name comes like earlier or like a year later, but and also like the meaning of the song like continues to like grow as I live and play that song. Like the meaning of Yellow Rose to me is different than it was 5 years ago because I've been alive for 5 more years and I've played that song like for 5 years.
Okay. Okay, so that's interesting. The song, sometimes you don't even know what you're going to title it until the very end. It sounds like the piece is a complete work as it is, and you don't go in like, all right, I've completed this much, title it off, wrap it in a bun, but rather the entire work is completed as one.
Yes.
Okay. A little bit through your song process, like starting from like, hey, it's time I make a new song, what first takes you and says, all right, I'm going to make it, this is what it's going to sound like, this is the, tonal qualities, tempo, anything like that, to performing it and perfecting it throughout you said a year, I think, and then making a piece of artwork and titling it? Like, what goes into all of that?
I mean, I'm coming up with ideas on the piano, and then like the way they fit together is kind of something that I don't necessarily always plan. Like sometimes there's a couple ideas that I have at the same time, and I'm like, oh, like I want to put these together, and then that might be the most process oriented part of writing music, is when you have like two ideas that need to be in the same song, or even two movements, and you're trying to like tie them together. So I think even one time, like I think I called you when I was trying to this is like the last thing I needed to do to finish my most recent song, and I was like trying to get the transition right, and instead of going down, I went up like to a higher octave to reach the next part.
Yeah, that was this past summer. I remember that.
Yeah.
Or it might have been late spring.
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest, like I don't really have like a process. Like music just kind of happens, and then I enjoy the way it sounds, and I like keep playing with it until it works. And if it doesn't work, like if I start to hate it, then I kind of like that's a sign that I need to let it go and do something new. But
okay. Yeah, I recognize I kind of asked a bad question of artists. That's like, oh, tell me about your muse, which. So I'm sorry about trying to throw that on you, but okay. Gotcha. So inspiration, timeline, process. What have been some of the joys of putting your work online for your listeners?
I think like we talked about the like people asking for the sheet music and using it in weddings, like that has like been something I did not ever see happening, and that has been really enjoyable. And then also this year, like throughout the quarantine, a couple people learned a couple pieces of mine and then posted videos of them playing it, and that was the coolest thing. So like one of my friends has like played one of my songs before. This is Laura again. And she was like, up until that moment, she was the only one who had ever done it. And that was an amazing experience. And it was a different experience to see someone I've never met before playing my music.
That must be so cool, man. It must be so, I don't know, like such a compliment to see other people trying to perform your work as well.
It was neat.
Did he do it justice?
So it was two women, and they both did a really good job.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's cool. They both played the same piece differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, actually, I think they played two different pieces. I think one did Eche and one did Yellow Rose. Yeah. They had different styles, but it's cool.
Did you get a chance to talk with them at all about it?
I had messaged them because they messaged me on Facebook asking for the music, and then they sent me the recording, and so we kind of talked back and forth about it for a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Cool. Rock on, man.
Yeah.
So on the flip side of that, have there been any negatives of making art?
I think like anybody, and especially any like artist, like there's a little piece of you that wants to be famous, and you have to like fight that. Like,
yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there have been times when it was easy for me to like get attached to like watching my streams go up. Like when I had like no. This is actually kind of a funny thing. I think I had like 67 streams on my song for a year, and then my friend, our mutual friend Abby, put it on her playlist called Road Trip Sing-Alongs, which she created before Spotify started creating their own editorial playlist. So it's super popular. I think she has like 100,000 followers. My song made no sense on there, but like people started listening to it, And then like people who actually wanted to hear it were listening to it, and then it started getting on Discover Weekly, and that's when my streams like skyrocketed. Skyrocketed meaning like not like, you know, Miley Cyrus, but like way more than like, you know, like
Well, yeah. What?
like
So
12K in a month, which is like pretty crazy to me. But
you've got Yellow Rose has 759,000 views. Etche has 382,000, and this is just on Spotify. Emmanuel 23,000. Blood and Water 17,000.
yeah.
And then you've got like 12 views with my podcast and Etzbez. Man, I had no idea that Abby was like Spotify famous. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. I think
Wow.
I think like one of the Jonas Brothers like producer like sent her some stuff to like try to get their music on there. Like kind of funny.
Oh wow. So yeah, I totally get it. Trying to put yourself out there and like, well, I want to be famous, but that's not why I'm doing this. Has there been any other like drawback from kind of putting yourself out there in the public eye?
No. I mean one person commented on my Yellow Rose painting and said it sucked, and that was just like a random like like
This
dude,
one guy.
just one guy, man. You know, I brushed it off. But yeah, there really hasn't been anybody who like attacked me or anything. No.
Gotcha. Rock on. Okay. All right. So one last music question, then I'd like to transition to spiritual life. But what advice do you have to other people that are approaching art? Maybe specifically music, or just other art forms in general, maybe painting or sculpture or poetry.
Oof. Dang, I don't want to say something cliche. What advice would I have? I think my advice would be like like just to do it, because like it is rewarding, and like
Okay.
people deserve to like hear your music and see your art. So like put it out there, not to make money, but I mean if it's your job, like yes, put it out there to make money. But if you're just doing it for fun, like put it out there because people need to see that, and people need to hear it. And then
Hmm.
the other thing I would say is like um like I think it's an interesting thing with artists. Like it's easy to like to be jealous of other artists. Like like one time I was playing like a piece, like a Debussy piece that my brother got me to play, and I was like kind of angry because I want like I wanted to like know how he was doing what he was doing, and I was like trying to like extract like, okay, how did he make this sound so good? Like it's so weird, but it's so good. And then I played one. There's like one transition in Claire de Lune that's just like mind blowing. Like you play it and you're like, how? Oh my gosh, like this guy's a genius. And I thank my little brother PJ for this. Like it was that moment there I was like, man, like I'm not jealous of this guy. Like he has his own gift. Like I have my own gift, and we're both making different art, but
Hmm.
I don't need to like take anything from anybody, you know.
Yeah, I
It's
think those are
different from learning from someone, but yeah.
gotcha. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Okay, so I'd like to move into spiritual life.
Right.
So how has art affected your spirituality, or any sort of like maybe spiritual encounters, maybe even just worship God? Like, has music, art, sculptures, or even freaking architecture, anything helped you out in that way?
I think honestly, like I would go back to everything we just talked about like music and hope, um,
Okay.
and like music being a sacrament, like not in terms of like, it's not, I'm not saying it's the eighth church sacrament, but I'm saying like like it's that like physical like gesture that I participate in to say that like yes, beauty exists. And so I think in that respect, like it's been essential to me. Um, and a lot of artists talk about how like music is like a form of like prayer for them,
Okay.
and I've always like struggled with that. Like I've never. I mean, it can be like incredibly emotionally expressive, um, but I think that is true. I think, um, but yeah, that's not something like that's still something I'm like I'm discovering, I guess, and learning about. But um, yeah,
How so?
I think it's well, I don't have like a complete idea on that yet. Like I'm not really sure what it means for music to be a prayer. Like I know what it means. It's definitely been that before. So it's
Yeah.
definitely connected to like and like in terms of like creating something, like participating in the like like the creative life like of God that's like a part of your like your makeup, you know.
Okay.
Um but I think mostly in terms of like of hope and like and yeah, I guess like that would like make it a part of prayer, definitely.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you best encounter God in your life?
Um so to me the Eucharist is essential kind of in the way that I talked about before. And like these like I love being Catholic because of these physical gestures that I can participate in to to worship God even when I'm um, like struggling with my faith. Um, and I think also um, like the friends that he's given me are a huge are like essential. Um, like my friends in the church have definitely like I yeah like I couldn't be Catholic without them. And um, and a few saints in particular have been really important to my faith too. Saint Therese in particular. Um, yes.
Could you
That
talk some more about
does
how
that
your
make
friends?
sense?
No, that does. Thank you. Could you talk some more about how your friends have impacted your religion or your
Oh,
religious experience?
yeah. I think I kind of learned about like how that's a factor in my religious life through my friends that I met in the lay movement, communion and liberation, which has been a huge part of my faith for the last couple of years, and kind of like felt like home, you know. Um, and yeah, if it weren't for my friends, um, I wouldn't know what it means to be free. I wouldn't know what it means to not be afraid of my questions, to not be afraid of um, to not be afraid of myself. Like it was through these people that I learned what it meant to not be afraid of your own questions, and to like to live life um like in a relationship with the God who like gave me these questions. So I think that is something I could have never learned on my own,
Mm-hmm.
And without seeing people who weren't afraid.
Okay. So for our listeners, Communion and Liberation was started by Father Giussani in Italy in what was like the 1960s or something. Yeah, we've actually mentioned him and some of his work before on the show. And actually, you and I were both at Communion and Liberation in Pensacola, Florida. It's for those who know what liberation theology is. It's nothing like that. It does not have anything to do with liberation theology. That's a very, very, very terrible thing. Well, not terrible thing, but like that's not a good thing in Catholicism that's happening in various geographical areas. But yeah, so Communion and Liberation. Father Giussani, whenever people meet, it's in a school of community, and they usually go over some various readings of Father Giussani or from the current head of the lay movement. It is a lay movement, so I think there's a couple priests in it, but once you are elected to the episcopate, once you become a bishop, then you're kicked out. Yeah, so quick background for Communion and Liberation. Brendan, what do you like about CL? Could you synthesize kind of like the heart of CL real quick for our listeners?
Okay. Someone asked me this. Someone asked me this at dinner the other night because they were really frustrated that no one had ever explained it to them. I think the name of any lay movement is really important, obviously. Okay. So I think if you want to know what Communion and Liberation is, you have to look at the name, which is this idea that we are freed through the experience of encountering the event of Christ in your life, which happens in communion with other people. So it's reclaiming these words from that were stolen by communism, communion and liberation. And so because of that, because it's about communion, everyone's experience of why they've if you're involved in CL, the experience of why you fell in love with it it's kind of personal, because the only way the way that usually happens is by encountering these people who, for me, who weren't afraid of their questions, and that really kind of blew me away. But to synthesize the charism of the movement, I think one way you could kind of say is that that Christianity is an event that happened, Christ entered history, and the reason they get together every week is to look at your own life and to read something that that you can that kind of gives you a measure to look at your life and say is this true? Can I verify by looking at my own experience that that what Christ says is true? And I just used a lot of words that are popular in CL, but I think the words that a movement uses are important, because that's how they're the ones that pick how to describe what they're talking about. So
yeah. And CL has been very stereotypically difficult to describe because it kind of uses these really abstract sounding terms. It's oh, well, it's the I encountering the other, and it's what does that mean, man?
Which is funny because then you read JP2 and he says a lot of the same stuff, and you're oh man, I thought this was just some weird CL thing, but it's yeah.
It's been really fun as I've been in the process of making this podcast. We're reading Pope Benedict XVI and St. John Paul II. Both of them were highly influenced by CL and Father Giussani. So they seeing their terminology mirror that of CL, and then also some of my priest friends who are also in the movement, hearing it in their homilies. It's just oh yeah. My wife and I will look at each other and just be oh yeah, I remember. I know where that's coming from. Got it. All right. Okay, so we've talked about your spiritual encounters, art. We've talked about others in your life, friends. You did also mention the importance of Mass. Um, so please tell us what is it like when receiving the Eucharist, and how does that help? I don't know, buttress your faith.
I think it's because it's a physical gesture that I can participate in that says I believe that God exists. Um, and it's kind of like the final word on that, like, because I can go into Mass like, and like in a flustered or in a flurry about that, and then like um it's not that it's like this like emotional experience every time I receive the Eucharist, but like
Hmm.
um it's a fact, that happens, and I think that is why it's so important.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, thank you. Hey, Brendan, thanks for coming on. This has been great getting to talk to you and get to know you more for our viewers. Is there anything you'd like to leave the group with? Anything else that we haven't talked about? I think that was just about everything we had wanted to go over.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for talking with me, Alex. That
Yeah,
was cool.
absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Let's throw a couple shameless plugs out there. We can find you on Spotify. We can find you on YouTube. Brendan, Brendan Flynn, two N's, Brendan Flynn. Is there anywhere else we could find you? How could people
Um,
message you if they want to like get your music and permission to play it or whatever?
I mean, you can I think my Facebook page is pretty easy to find if you know how to spell my name. And then I don't know if it's like Brendan Flynn Music or B Flinny or something. But if you can't find it, you can comment on one of my YouTube songs, and I can pick you up there. I'm also on SoundCloud too, but that's
On
it.
SoundCloud too. Cool.
I think Apple Music has me. Pandora doesn't because they curate their music. I mean, so.
They curate. What does that even mean? They curate their music. Oh no, you're not good enough
Well,
for us.
anybody and their brother can get on Spotify. You just have to pay like $10 or something. But Pandora's different.
Rock on. Awesome, man. Hey, any collaborations maybe with your brother who's so much of a better pianist?
uh, Mostly he learns music and he inspires me to learn the same music. So kind of how that works.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you once again. This was great getting to talk with you. And I guess you and I will talk later. But to everyone else, have a good weekend. Have a great week, and see you later. Okay.
Amen. Thanks, Alex. All right. Bye.